It's actually very nice to be here. It's we have a good habit here, meeting once a year over a beer, chatting about the things that really matters. And today we're going to have two contestants doing a versus. It's actually a competition. And on the left side here, in red, we have a music disc from 1989. It's called Sounds of Gnome. It looked like this. It's a mess, but it's a nice mess. By the way, Linus, he talked about the Pac-Man, and of course there's a way of getting the Pac-Man there. It's just clicking on the nice face over there and you get a Pac-Man. On the right side, we have another music disc because Sounds of Gnome is going to compete against his master's Noise. It's another music disc made in 1991 by a couple of 25 people, and it's also a Mahoney and Kaktus production. These two are actually going to compete in no less than 34 different categories. And these categories are, for instance, we're going to talk about their name, we're going to talk about the numbering, the composers, the songs, the hidden songs. We're going to talk about size, length, audio compression, Googleability, YouTube hits, age, cool technology, female beauty, actual women, graphic artists, time spent doing other stuff, sort code comments, you name it. There's a category for everything. So let's start with the very first category. We have up to the left, we have Sounds of Gnome, currently no points. And we have to the right, his master's Noise, currently no points. And we start with the names. We have the names of Sounds of Gnome and his master's Noise. And personally, I think Sounds of Gnome is a clear winner. So we're going to test and see what happens when Sounds of Gnome gets 1 point. So, Sounds of Gnome is in the lead with 1-0. The numbering, well, we come to music disc number 2 over here, and we have music disc number 5 over here. And I can tell you that there never was a music disc 3 or 4. Other companies that are really bad at numbers are Microsoft. There never was a Windows 6 or a Windows 9. Other things, if you ever enter into an airplane and go, you can search for the 13th row in an airplane. There never is a 13th row in an airplane because we don't like to sit on row 13. What you should do is see the movie, The 13th Floor, which is an excellent science fiction movie, by the way. So, there never was a music disc 3 or 4. You just have to live with it. The next category is composers. Now, Sounds of Gnome was made by 4 people. This is one of them, Lars Malmborg, Glue Master. Another one is over here, over there, which is Jesper Johansson, Pex Mahoney. This is an article from the local newspaper called Lommagrabbar spelar in sin demokassett. Här kommer Mortal Memories. So this was before his musical career, but that is when he spent his time at my place playing with Noisetracker together with me, because he was an Atari guy. I mean, most musicians were at that time due to the MIDI hardware being, well, for free in the Atari, because if you did it on Amiga, you actually had to buy separate hardware to get MIDI out of it. So this guy is actually over there, Kaktus. No, he doesn't dare to. Well, I asked him like 5 minutes ago if he wanted to join, but no, not this time. Here's another photo of Kaktus and Lars, and then that's me a couple of ages ago. So that's what I used to look like 1989. So these were the people around here. When we were doing the music, it kind of looked like this. So this is at the summer place of Kaktus, I guess, in Klippan or somewhere. So all these people with his master's Noise, there were even more. There were like 25 people, among them Mantronic, Siphoid, well, the Mega Lemurs, etc. A nice bunch of people. But for all of these, what actually happened to those people? Well, Lars over here, Glue Master, he actually moved to Australia. So Lars, I miss you, but unfortunately not here. So that's Lars. Spexon over there, unfortunately, he passed away a year ago. Very sad, and Jesper, I really miss you. So who gets the points when it comes to composers? Well, for the sake of it, it's It's Sounds of Gnome in the lead with 2-0. We go to songs. In Sounds of Gnome we had 46 songs and 4 hidden songs. In his Master's Noise we actually managed to cram in 101 songs plus 10 songs in the reset part. So clearly here the winner is his Master's Noise. Well, we come to the hidden songs, and in there, as I said before, 4 hidden songs in Sounds of Gnome. You actually got one of those songs by typing in Kaktus, Kaktus, and you got an interpretation of Fyrlis by Kaktus, for instance. Very funny songs, and also specs on Glue Master and Pex. That's the hidden songs in his Master's Noise. We get to the size of things. From the cracker scene, you know that the smaller the size is, the better. So Sounds of Gnome was 1 disc, his Master's Noise used 2 discs. So that's clearly a point for Sounds of Gnome. When we come to the music length of these music discs, we managed to cram in 1.5 hours of music into Sounds of Gnome and like almost 4 hours of music into his Master's Noise. And well, the more the merrier, so that's... If you're one of those people who subscribe to Spotify, maybe you notice that they use kind of 320 kilobits per second to transmit their audio. In here we have an audio compression of 1.2 kilobits per second, so we kind of save quite a lot of space, because 1 disc, 880 kilobytes, and still you have 1.5 hours of music. His Master's Noise, even though using double the data, has had more than twice the length of music. So we open a web browser and we type in Sounds of Gnome, and what happens? Well, Google, they say, well, you have 7 million results, which make me actually, I don't think they're really good at counting at Google, but the fun thing is that Sounds of Gnome is actually the first hit that you get when you search for Sounds of Gnome. So Sounds of Gnome by Mahoney Kaktus, even though it's on Poet, it's kind of okay to be the best search word when you search for Sounds of Gnome. Or it might be that nobody else has ever been interested in calling anything that resembles Sounds of Gnome. We take a look at his Master's Noise then. Can anyone guess what you'll find if you search for his Master's Noise on Google? His Master's Voice, yeah, that's a good guess. Any other idea? Porno, no, not porno. You get a choir from Finland. So you get a choir from Finland that actually called Gospelkören, his Master's Noise. Make a joyful noise to the Lord. I kind of like that. Their first CD came out in 1991, almost the same time as his Master's Noise. So we kind of didn't know about each other. But once again, Google says 12 million hits of his Master's Noise. I don't believe them, but still it's nice to be acquired with a choir, so that's a point for his Master's Noise. So we go to YouTube, and what do we find when we search for Sounds of Gnome in YouTube? Well, you find actually Sounds of Gnome. That's nice. 2,500 times somebody has actually listened to that 1.5 hour video clip of his of Sounds of Gnome, of course. You also have this Hungry Gnome Fortnite sounds, that must be a pretty new one, 3 weeks ago. And we have this Leper Gnome sounds, Hearthstone. So we're pretty alone in the Sounds of Gnome space, at least. So searching for his Master's Noise in YouTube, well, actually we're on top here because we have more views than this gospel choir has. So kind of a point to his Master's Noise. We come to age, and as we all know, in the retro scene and in the computer scene, the older the better. Now we go to cool technology, and actually I'm going to boot up the Amiga here and show you the tracker of his Master's Noise. I made a special version of Noisetracker in there, and it kind of, well, I boot it. What happened was that pretty much people were confused about this one, because this program is not a new version of the Noisetracker, and it is totally worthless for anything but our Music Disc 5. Forget it, Mahoney Kaktus in June 1990. what happened was that some people got this music disc anyway, or the tracker, and did a copy of all my special commands up here. What I did here is actually a granular synthesizer software wavetable synthesizer. So in here I can make some waveforms, and in here to the right I can select which waveform I'm going to play when I trigger a sound, and I can also draw my own loudness shape. So this is kind of a way of making a granular wavetable synthesizer, which was used in his master's noise. There was also a way of changing the samples here. So all these commands are heavily abbreviated, but it's kind of a copy, zero, make a chord out of it, make it 1 octave higher, 1 octave lower, cut the left part of it, cut the right part of it, mix it with another sample, reverse it, make a low-pass filter version of it, fade in, fade out, and change the volume. So I'm kind of going to the 127 sounds sound bank of his master's noise, kind of load a sample, go back into the sampler here, and I can kind of change the sound as I'd like. So that's a way of getting much richer amount of sounds into the music disc. So that's kind of what we did to make a more variety of the sounds. So, but a lot of this was copied by other trackers later. So in Star Tracker, for instance, the chord maker up there has an exact copy of it by Björn Wessén. I don't think I will show you much more about the tracker, but it kind of confuses people because it got loads of feature, but no really description of it. So this point over here, for instance, is important, but because that is the fine-tuning of the sounds. Because if you use this wavetable, detta är en jättefin waveform, I actually store the waveforms in the patterns. Then you needed to fine-tune the pitch of them, otherwise it would be pretty crazy when you play it with the normal sounds. So that about cool technology, and that's clearly a point for, well, you guess it, his master's noise. So we go to female beauty, and this is Paulina Portsikova, a swimsuit model back in 1989. If you notice, she kind of have blue eyes in real life. Can anyone guess why she doesn't have blue eyes in the Sounds of Gnome? Lack of colors, absolutely. That's a 16-color photo that was used in the intro. So in a boot block on Amiga, you have 10 kilobytes of memory, and I couldn't afford to give her blue eyes because of the size limit of the boot block. What about his master's noise then? Is there any female beauties in there? Well, there actually accidentally is. This is one of the Easter eggs of his master's noise. If you type love on the keyboard over there, you actually get this picture. And there's another one. If you type the letters F-U-C-K, there's this Easter egg here. So there was some female beauty in his master's noise as well. So I can't really decide about these ones. If you couldn't read that, come on, hand some $300 and you get a night to remember. So that's clearly 2 points, one for each music. What about actual women then? Not only photographed one, but the real ones. Well, this is a party. Over here it's actually Defiers, or the hangarounds around Defiers back at that time. We used to hang around in a place called Strandkyrkan, which is a very small church actually, but the best part of it was a large room where they used to have a preschool activities in there. We had parties in there, and each Friday, not only going to parties like this, that's me by the way, not only parties like this, but actually each Friday we used to go and play volleyball. So this is part of Defiers. You have Yodel King over here, you have me over there, and actually we had quite a lot of fun. Not everybody went to those parties or went to the volleyball playing, but some of them used to stay in the church. So while we were playing, we kind of joined with them later. So here's, for instance, Glue Master and Marcus Nelson. hi, Parrot of Defiers. So we kind of met once in a while in that place. Very nice. So kind of, well, we had this meeting place, and if you read the scroller down here in Sounds of Gnome, you can actually get a description of how these evenings turn out to be. So that's clearly a point for Sounds of Gnome. When it comes to graphic artists, probably you have read Prowler's book, not his Master's Noise, but the Masters of Pixel Art. In there, he doesn't talk about Coma, who drew this initial picture of his Master's Noise, but he talks a lot about Uno. And Uno drew this picture, and if I was Claes Prowler, I would probably zoom in here and show you the expert dithering details from Uno, because he actually made a name of himself as inventing a new style of Amiga graphics. So if you buy his book, which you should, you can read about it here. Description of this one, and picking the right palette became an art in itself. So there's a large interview with Uno, very nice. You would never find any of my logos in that book, and maybe that's not very funny, because this is the way I used to draw logos. You can notice the very nice dithering effects in the corners, and well, you see the no, you don't. So that's clearly a point for his Master's Noise. Now we go to time spent doing other stuff. I'm going to show you this paper, and this paper is a description of, you probably can't read it, so I'm going to zoom in for you. The group is called Elite, and everybody wants to be elite, but this time actually it's Elite swimming team that I was part of. So this part here, people that spent most of their time doing exercise in the swimming hall. And a normal week for me in 1990 actually looked like this. So imagine you after school going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and twice on Saturday, going to the swimming hall and doing these 2-3 hours of training every day, which meant I didn't have much spare time. So the coding kind of went, well, somewhere after this, kind of late nights. But that meant that the music disc, his Master's Noise, took 20 months of development time, which kind of was good because the composers had a lot of time to actually make their music while I tried to do something else. So clearly, the time around when I was doing Sounds of Gnome, I had more spare time. So that's a point for Sounds of Gnome. Source code comments. Well, it's easy, none and none. I've read all the source code. There's hardly anything that could be traceable or readable about why I did stuff and how I did stuff. And if you take a look at the screens, there's quite a lot of stuff happening there. The reason for not having any source code comments is that, well, the source code itself is 200 kilobytes. The memory of the computer that I used was like 500. So half of the computer was for source code, and I couldn't waste precious bytes of bloating the source code with comments. So kind of I had these small notes, a piece of paper I used to write on, and whenever I felt that I don't need this anymore, I just threw it in the trash. So all of my comments for the source code is kind of lost. So no points for any of these music discs. When it comes to sounds, we spent like 69 sounds on Sounds of Gnome. These almost 600 kilobytes of the disk was sounds. Not very many sounds, and you couldn't do much about them. So this sound here is actually the disk filler of his Master's Noise. This is Warm Valley by Duke Ellington. It's a 25-second sample that I used to kind of fill the disk because I had quite a lot of free space. These 127 sounds in his Master's Noise, they were packed. And I also, since it was using 2 disks, and not all people actually had 2 disk drives, there was an option of reading one of the disks completely into memory, and then you can kind of skip the first disk and just keep this second disk in the disk drive. So the preset sounds were kind of limited to 512 kilobytes because that's what you could fit in the external memory. So, but in here, I also allowed changing the sounds, as you saw previously in the special Noisetracker, and you also could add your own sounds to a song. So there are a couple of songs here that has samples that's only used in that module, like the Warm Valley instrument that you heard previously. So that's clearly 1 point. It's 8 to 9 then, and his master's noise gets in the lead with, well, you guess it, 0A. We come to code size, and in Sounds of Gnome, the source code was 125 kilobytes of the things I typed. 20 kilobytes was used for kind of tools for writing the stuff to disk and compressing sounds, etc. And 34 kilobytes was used in the reset part, the things that happen when you thought you were turning off your computer, but that's when we show another demo. In his master's noise, you almost double the amount of code. I mean, the demo itself is almost 300 kilobytes. The support stuff that we needed to do to write stuff on the disk and compress things, 41 kilobytes. And then we had a completely, no, that's actually the reset part as well. And then we have the 213 kilobytes of source code for the special Noisetracker version, the tool you use to write the music in. A couple of 14,000 lines of code. And as we all know, I'm pretty more impressed about Sounds of Gnome when it comes to code, because in less than half of the code size, we actually managed to do quite a good music compilation. That's 1 point for Sounds of Gnome. Sometimes when I open my mailbox, it looks like this, and I like it actually. This is from Mark Dustmalshi-Round. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name right. I got this in June. We've never met, but you've been influence on me when you in the Amiga scene, and you have his letter here. But the fun thing about this one is, I recently set up my Amiga 1200 and listened to the sound, and well, is it okay if I made a heavy metal cover of one of your songs? And well, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mark. I'm honored to have your heavy metal cover of this one. So there's clearly a point for, well, you guess it, Sounds of Gnome. The category is development, and in here, well, Sounds of Gnome used in 1989 used Seca 1.5. I love that one. His master's noise used Master Seca, which had a lot of bugs, and the ASM1. And the reason for using two different assemblers was that ASM1 was better at handling segments in the Amiga executable format. Meant that some parts of the Noisetracker could actually be offloaded to the fast mem, and the precious chip mem, where Amiga could do his hardware DMA fetching of samples, was left with more room for samples and sounds. But as a developer, well, the less tools you use, the better. So let's boot up the Amiga and talk about the boot sector. So this is Sounds of Gnome. The intro, just when you insert the disc, it looks like this. That's Paulina over there. Beautiful, absolutely. And a couple of scrollers and a little effects. And when we came here, the music disc started itself. Kind of a nice boot block, considering it's 10 kilobytes of used memory. But then again, the intro in his master's noise, I think that's one of the best demos, parts, technical challenges that I'm most happy with, because it's, well, you've seen it a lot of times and it looks like this.
Let's go!
So that's what the intro of his master's noise looks like, and you need to consider that, well, this is not 10 kilobytes what you see in here, but it's actually a demo that loads itself while it's running. So the first thing you see, the lemming going down with the umbrella, that's what you have in 10 kilobytes, and also the sample saying, let's go! That's part of the initial load, and then I rapidly start loading stuff while we're displaying it. So I kind of had to delay the start of the music because I needed to load the music before I could show it, and also the graphics. And then hopefully when the intro is done, you can jump right into the music disc itself. So it's kind of a feat to have managed to get an interesting development like this. The lemming stuff was kind of, I'm also happy about the message I send with this, because at the ECS computer show in Eskilstuna, where I met Twins and Sifvoid, for instance, who helped me rip this lemming guy, that was a kind of a copy party, playing party, because a lot of sceners actually spent their time playing lemmings instead, and I hated that game because it was a time waster for all of us in the scene. So this is my way of saying lemmings is a bad thing because it makes you less creative. So, but anyway, his master's noise needs to get this point. If you ever care about rankings and voting, etc., I can tell you that in poet.net, which is a demo scene related website, the all-time rank of Sounds of Gnome is kind of 4038, and for his master's noise is kind of 4399. I think most people voting at those places have, well, they haven't seen this. So I would say that I don't care about these numbers, but if anyone does, there's a point for Sounds of Gnome. Now we take a look at the greetings list of his of Sounds of Gnome. The greetings list was kind of in the middle of the screen. So if we zoom it in here, we have some known people like Walt Disney, Yvonne Ryding, and we also have some unknown people. Because does anyone know who Johan Torgeby is? Well, he used to look like this. That was a classmate of mine. Now the category, you don't see it anymore, it's celebrities to be. Does anyone know what became of him? I can tell you a story because he moved... Truck driver? Oh, a good idea. No, he moved to London and kind of studied a little, and nowadays he looks like this. Anyone recognizes him? Wealthy man, yeah, that's true. He actually became CEO of SE-banken, so he's actually one of the highest ranked bank managers today. Really nice guy. I haven't met him for 30 years, but back then we had lots of fun. He's a drummer, by the way. Now we come to Easter eggs, and as you know, there are loads of Easter eggs in these. This is a list of the ones that I know about for Sounds of Gnome. There are kind of 17 of them in this part. I'm not going to go through them. If we compare to his master's noise, we kind of have 11 Easter eggs that I know about. And we take the first one, press help to get a help screen. There was a help screen, not very helpful, but it actually spelled help. Just one thing that I don't like about this one, and I think I did notice it before it was released, but I kind of suck because that pixel over there is not where it's supposed to be. You have a single jump, and you have double jump, and then came so. I don't know where that pixel error came from and how it ever got there, but I never managed to remove it. So, who is Helene? Used to be my girlfriend back then. So, the next thing, if you type number 7 here, type cactus, and you'll see something like this. Nothing is ever so bad it can't get worse. Cactus is here creeping around in your memory. But for Easter eggs, it's clearly a win for Sounds of So this is the hidden part of his master's noise. If you insert the wrong disk, if you insert disk 2, that's what you're going to see. That's a 10 kilobyte boot block expanding like an image like this. Now there is a hidden part in Sounds of Gnome as well, because if you hold down your right mouse button when you insert the disk, there is actually a demo coming up like this. This is a funny demo. It has the kind of Jobba cover that is a cover of Chris Julsbeck. Well, last time I was here, I was having an interview with this excellent, nice guy, Chris Julsbeck, and the first part of his Guyana Sister song is what I stole to kind of get the mood of making a song, and then like 20 seconds into the song I kind of did my own thing. But it was nice to start with something that I really liked, and it's this. So that's the hidden part of Sounds of Gnome. And of course, I like that much better. Now we come to compatibility, and as you might know, the first thing that me and Kaktus did whenever we made demos is to turn off the system, turn off the interrupts, turn off everything that had to with Amiga OS, etc. to do with. And well, Amiga OS is a nice piece of software, but I've never used it actually. So the only thing we did was turn everything off, and that's fine as long as the hardware stays the same. But if you take a look at this closely, it's actually recorded on a later Amiga, and if you take a look at the ball bouncing around over there, it's not a ball anymore. Half of the sprite on the underside is actually garbage, and the reason for that, in the early Amiga 500s that we used to develop this one, we kind of stretched the screen. So by making the screen a little bit wider, which looks nicer on your monitor, then we kind of lost the sprites because you kind of used the DMA for fetching bitplane data, and the sprite kind of, instead of having 4 colors, which it's used to have, or it should have according to the hardware reference manual, it kind of turned out pretty okay on the old Amigas because it fetched only 1 color, and we could use it at a single color sprite, which Amiga doesn't have really. But on later Amigas, they kind of changed the hardware and the DMA fetching, so the ball broke on newer Amigas. Another thing was the reset part of his masters of Sounds of Gnome, because whenever you try to reset this, so soft reset over there, you kind of got garbage. And the reason for getting garbage is that I tried to reset the reset vectors into making a normal reset, but on newer Amigas they kind of moved where those reset vectors were, and we got stuck with a re-entrant demo parts. And I almost always use self-modifying code because it's cool. And the demo broke after resetting it like 13 times. You only get a single dot in there. So when it comes to compatibility, I would say his master's noise was way better. So the next question is, well, this is from a newspaper in August 1990. Well, we still have heat, and you have 2 gorgeous-looking people over here. Can anyone guess? I can say that this is me, by the way. Now, can anyone guess who's this guy? Not my father, not Kaktus. Hasselhoff. Well, if you take a look at his hair, it kind of looks like him. Now it's my good friend Jon Sifoid Garhag. Sorry you can't be here, but that's him. So we used to spend the summer in Ystad. This was Ystads Allehanda, the front page of Ystads Allehanda. We are the front page to show that, well, we have a lovely summer weather. So that's how at least the 2 of us came on the front page of the newspaper. That's not at all related to these music discs. Well, we did some music, of course, at the time in my parents' summer house, which actually is over there in the woods. So we get back to Google and the Google images. So if we type Sounds of Gnome here and we want to find things about Sounds of Gnome, well, you actually do find Sounds of Gnome at the top and a couple of other things. If we do the same thing with his master's noise, you get nothing. So, well, if you scroll down to somewhere in China, you get a picture of the demo. But clearly, it's better to have a music disc named Sounds of Gnome, because that's when you find the images. This is an image that you'll never find in Google's image index, because that is Kaktus and me at the top of our careers as Amiga developers in Stankyrkan in Lomma. We used to bring like loudspeakers, cassette players, small speakers. Well, that's my TV, and well, it's easier to go to a demo scene party today because you just got one backpack. But this, we filled well, a car with all our junk. So clearly, well, you'll never find this image in a Google image search. So I'm talking quite a lot here. We're getting to in the charts. Well, Sounds of Gnome was never in any charts, while if we go to His Master's Noise, it was kind of mentioned in a couple of computer magazines and disc magazines, probably just because those disc magazines weren't invented back in 1989 when we did Sounds of Gnome. So, well, I don't really care about ratings, so, well, let 1 point for His Master's Noise. I've talked about the reset part before. This is a reset part, the hidden part that happens when you try to turn off your computer after you're done. So, well, this has everything. Loads of animated balls, a vector, a 3D vector in the middle with lines, and a kind of a scroller. And the reset part in His Master's Noise actually had music, looks like this. It's kind of a rolling ball. So the music is kind of a very small. I just had to get rid of the music. It had a very small replay routine, so that's constantly in memory while all of the other music is playing. So 1 point for His Master's Noise. Sponsors, we actually only have 3 categories left, so we have 16 points for Sounds of Gnome, and we have 15 points for His Master's Noise. Now, when it comes to sponsoring, well, in the demo scene and at this level, we don't deal with money. It's just not anything to do. But Sifoid, Jan Kage, actually he gave me 50 Maxell discs, those discs, to send out to the composers and to get them back. So I'm very thankful for that, Jan, because that kind of made my day when it came to making His Master's Noise. We sent out all these discs to 25 people, waited a little and got them back a couple of months later. So, yeah. So, the post-mortem, what happened afterwards? So, after Sounds of Gnome, 3 months later, well, the Noisetracker was released, and that music program has been quite a lot of joy for many people, which as the email I got from Mark with the heavy metal cover, they all say, oh, thank you very much. That's nice. What happened after His Master's Noise then? Well, I sold my Amiga and I bought a waterbed, as you might know. So for the scene and for the rest of the world, I guess Sounds of Gnome actually and the stuff we did afterwards made more impact in this world. So, the last words. How did we end this? Well, we said we'll soon do our own music routine, and that's why we sent the play source too. So we kind of hinted of we're going to do a music program somehow. And the last words of His Master's Noise were something in the lines of Mahoney Kaktus will take an everlasting vacation, so you don't have to worry about the future because we're not going to destroy it. And well, we didn't really take a vacation because somewhere around 2004 I did a demo for Bit Live, and then we had the 2007 for St. Claus meeting, and then yeah, I had demos at X, etc. So we kind of did destroy it anyway, but anyway, I'd destroy it. So the point for this one, of course, is, well, I think Noisetracker deserves worth a mention in here, so that's another point for Sounds of Gnome. And that comes to the conclusion that the winner of this competition between these two music discs is Sounds of Gnome with 18 points and His Master's Noise is with 16 points. So I'm going to leave you here I'm going to thank you for listening to my rant about stuff that happened long ago. I'm going to leave you here with one of my favorite songs from Sounds of Gnome, the one you've been hearing and this point for you everywhere. It's the Basket Yodel by myself. It's only 2 minutes, so if you don't like it, you can just skip it. If you want to talk with me or just hit me with something, I'll be in the bar, I guess. So thanks for listening, guys. See you.
Thanks a lot, Mahoney. And Kaktus, you're here, right? Please get up on stage. You don't have to say anything. We just want to give the big hand for you. And you. Woo! Thanks, guys. You're awesome.
Give a big hand to Pex, Mahoney, and Kaktus. Thank you so much for that demo talk.